1, 2, 3 audio test.
Hello, I can hear you. Sorry, I'm a bit unfamiliar with the new UI. Hello. Whoa. No way to put filters on the screen here, right? Michael, are you joining as a chair?
He just came in. So you have to click the people button to see who's in the meeting.
Yeah, I see that, but...
Good.
Yeah. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Okay. Let's... You still hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, welcome to the first interim, ASDF interim of 2024. And we have the topics of today will be to let's actually go through the slides and see where we take us. So apologies first, I'm a bit rusty here since I've been doing other things for quite some time, but trying to make it as good as possible. So note well, this is recorded. So all the usual note well stuff applies. Be nice and professional and follow the IETF guidelines. And here's the full note well. You can read it in the slides if you want to. The code of conduct. Let's treat each other with respect. Speak slowly. And, use good arguments and good engineering and find the best solution, etc. And contribute, right? And everybody's doing that, so we just need to say it. The agenda, this is the agenda for today. And we are now, we've done the note well, with logistics, it's when you're on Meteco, and obviously you're here. There's the note there. Michael, are you taking some notes or can you do that?
I'm trying to get ready to do that.
Okay. So for various sort of other reasons, this is a bit of a, we have a bit of things to discuss and we are a bit unprepared, but let's go. We'll do some quick working group status update. Then Karsten will present in more details where we are with the main SDF draft and the kind of the work related to that. After that, we will spend time on a bit of time on SDF and NIPSI. And finally, we need to go to the I will explain why in a moment, where we are with the charter and what we need to discuss related to that. I also got, we just got before here that I think we can squeeze in. I think it's mentioned in Karsten's drafts, in Karsten's slides already, but Jung sent in, I probably mispronounced your name, I apologize for that, but Jung. We might also want to spend like 3 minutes on the location work, just so that it's mentioned here. Right, so let's squeeze that in after the NIPSI presentation. So we wait for that. Any other thing before we get going? I try here to keep track of everything, so Just speak out. We're not that many, so speak out if you want to say something. Hi, Francesca.
Milestones. Hi, Niklas.
Yes.
I guess that's part of the charter.
Yes. I wish I could have structured it so more leading into that, but yes, it's part of the charter and deliverables discussion at the end. But yes, they are sorely needed. We know. Thank you. Okay.
So I have some deliverables on my slides. I don't have milestones in the sense of actually assigning dates to them. We might want to discuss this as well.
Yes. So the idea would be to go through what we have and what we kind of plan, and then with that in mind, sort of think on the kind of the appetite for work and how we kind of okay, what are we working on? How do we assign milestones to those pieces of work? That was my idea. So that we at the end of this meeting have at least a rough idea of the plans going forward with some milestones attached and some people who are sort of eager to work on their respective stuff. Good. Any other comments? Okay, great. Now I'm already over time. The status update, we were chartered in 2020. Michael and myself are the chairs. We have the ASDF RFC under AD evaluation. It's more on that soon. We also have a new charter that's been proposed and is under discussion. We'll get back to that later. When it comes to meeting plans, we can actually take this at the end, but maybe we need one or more interims before summer. And I think from the right thinking of our kind of expected workload, I think it's good to think we probably want to have some design team meeting for SDF and NIPSI in the not too far future, so we get going on that. And then the question is, of course, should we try to meet in Vancouver? But let's take that the very end with this. With that, I leave it to you, Karsten. Do I have to share your slides, or can you share them yourself, or?
I think I can share them.
Please go ahead then.
Well, you need to allow me to.
And there you go.
And you probably have to refresh the slides because mine aren't in there yet.
Aha. And that is done by...
You go in the menu at the bottom that says management of slides or something like that. And there you refresh.
I have share slides, share screen, more tools, upload,
so
manage
it's
slide.
the 3 buttons, and I'm trying to do it, and I already clicked on it.
You already clicked on it?
Refresh.
Okay,
And
weren't
it's
they...
working.
Okay. No strange. Oh, they should be there.
Are they there now, Karsten? Because for me, they're not.
If they're not there for you, they are not there for me either.
Yeah. Reconnect, because I think I did something wrong.
Yeah, so this is the standard problem that Meet Echo has when you have chairs that are not as used to running this tool. There is no way to loop in other people pressing the right buttons. You have to wait for the chairs to find the buttons. That's a big design mistake.
We have... Okay, I tried to...
Yeah, so did you press the refresh button?
Yeah, but the refresh button got stuck in some kind of infinite loop of just refreshing.
Okay. So you need to manually upload my slides to Meet Echo.
Okay. Upload. Bum. That was too many windows.
Yeah, we were promised that a specific bug about slides was going to be fixed a couple of weeks ago, but apparently it hasn't been.
Okay, let me just bam. This was okay. That broke the thing. Slides. They should be there now, Karsten.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so you again have to give me the right to present the slides.
God.
Well, wow. Okay. So I wanted to quickly give an overview over the documents we have and the documents we should be having at some point. So let's start with the one document that was the only deliverable of the first charter period of this working group, the ASDF base spec. And we submitted an ID on February 29th and sent a publication request to the ISG on March 29th. And the document is now in AD evaluation. So at some point, we probably will get some feedback. So let me just summarize what's happening next. So there will be AD review comments, and these usually lead to a new version of the document, which probably will be -19. Then if that is okay, we go into the IETF last call, which takes a couple of weeks. So this will be will end probably around mid-May. So we have another set of review comments. We'll probably have directorate reviews and do a -20. And then finally we'll have the ISG evaluation where ADs provide feedback. These can come in form of blocking comments called discusses, or in the form of just comments, which are not blocking, but of course probably still interesting. So we may go through one or two revisions, and then the document at some point, I hope, will be approved. So we can expect that to happen in May or June, maybe. So that's always hard to predict. So when the document is approved, it goes to the RFC editor. We have the IANA interactions at the start of the RFC editor process. So the registries will actually be created. And then the RFC editor goes through 3 stages. The edit stage, where a single editor works with the document. The RFC editor stage, where another pair of eyeballs joins. And then the auth 48 stage, where the authors and the RFC editor together try to solve problems that have been detected during edit and RFC editor stage, or through any other way. So given that this will take a couple of months, plus we might get a publication in July or maybe August. So this just takes some time, but it's an approved document in all the time. The registries are there, so we can simply comment from Elliot in the chat. Yeah, so the stage before the edit stage usually isn't that long. Okay, so that's what we can expect for the base document. And what we really want to focus on in this meeting is what's going to happen after SDF base. because the document has left the working group. So the working group should follow the next steps very attentively, and we may want to get consensus on specific issues in various stages. But formally, it's now in ISG processing. So what we want to do, I think that there are essentially three different aspects, which are not necessarily three different categories, because the document may have several of these aspects. One is about actually working on the modeling infrastructure. Is there something in the processing model that needs to be extended? So we need new ways to model things. I will have examples for that in the moment. Then we have tool support, which is essentially separate from the standards track documents, but helps us to actually get the tool implementers being productive. And finally, we have a number of extension points in the base document. And so it's already obvious where we may want to put in new qualities, which is the name we are using, because we cannot use the term properties, because that's taken by JSON schema org with a different meaning. So we may want to define new qualities as in the process of using these extension points. So let's go into the various categories. The infrastructure, the aspect of how do we extend the processing model and the modeling technology with that. One point has been mapping files. So if we have a base spec that has been a base model, which has been receiving a lot of consensus between ecosystems, for instance, there may still be additional information that a specific ecosystem wants to attach to the document. So for instance, OMA in lightweight M2M has numbers for various things, and we are not assigning numbers in the SDF models. So providing a way to put in numbers is probably a good idea. As an ecosystem specific mapping file that points to the base model. Now the term mapping file is really bad, and we definitely need to find a better name for that, but that's what it's currently called in the document that is proposing one way of doing this. So this is definitely something we need to do, and we have a rough idea how to do this, which you can see in the document. Of course, none of the documents I will mention here are adopted, because our charter currently only had one document that we could work on, but this document probably isn't even ready for adoption, because it's not yet showing the whole picture. The second set of potential extensions to the SDF infrastructure is providing a way to actually represent instance information. So right now, SDF is serialization free. It doesn't tell you how to interchange data, and that is probably going to stay that way. But we may want to model information that is actually instance specific. So this is relatively easy with SDF property. We will have a quick discussion about location information in the digital twin document. It's less clear how to do instance information for the other interaction types. So we have to find out what we actually want to do here. So this is what I would consider infrastructure extensions, one with a document, one without a document. And the instance information could be information about identity, supplementary identity information that stays with a digital twin only, purpose in life information, links, information about the physical side. How exactly is this thing wired up? So for instance, a wiring configuration is not something that typically the processor in the thing knows about, but you have to store this information somewhere. And there are other physical aspects that you probably want to capture about a device. So we currently don't have a good way to model this except for stuffing everything into SDF properties, but that's probably wrong because that information is not an affordance to actually change it, because you cannot send a message that it has to go to a different location or something like that. So yeah, it needs to be, probably needs to be modeled in a slightly different way. So this is the incident information. On the tool side, we have a rough sketch of a compact notation, so it's easier to talk about an SDF spec on the whiteboard or on slides. And yeah, the usual question is what happens when a normative document starts using this notation? But really, it's meant to be informational. And there are also various internet drafts that have information about specific translation tools. For instance, the Yang SDF translation tool is described by an internet draft. And we may want to do something here. But right now, I don't see any specific document that we want to select here and actually work on. So this internet draft is a useful piece of information, but it's not something that we actually want to standardize. We don't standardize tools, we standardize interchange formats. On the side of new qualities of using those extension points, one set of qualities is about being able to talk about links. So SDF base doesn't have specific support for links. A link might just be a URI or might be a more complicated structure based on RFC 8288. So that's one thing we need to understand better. But also that there are different roles of links. Some links are actually used for linking between pieces of an SDF model, and other links are actually used for linking between instances. So a light switch knows which light it's supposed to control. So these are very different things, and we have two different drafts. We have the relations draft on using links between pieces of a model, and we have the SDF type link draft for using links as a data format within an SDF model. So these need some work. This has before working with Scroll. We first need to adopt them, of course. But it's pretty clear that we want to do these things because everybody who's working with SDF in some form probably is already using a version of this. We have had this discussion about location information, which for me is just an example of instance information that is somewhat non-traditional. And so we will have a couple of slides for that later. So there are very different ways of looking at this. But I think it can be integrated into the SDF general meta model without a lot of problems. We just need to get this instance versus class support in there. And then there is the NIPSI thing where we will have another set of slides in a moment, which is describing how to do last mile non-IP intercommunication, and there needs to be some additional application layer information that we need to capture, and of course we need to be able to map to specific protocols here. Mapping to specific protocols is nothing new in ASDF, but doing this for non-IP information probably is somewhat new. So the plan really is to recharge our ASDF working group now to enable this work, and then to do the work and profit from that. I've made a summary slide of what the foreseeable deliverables are. So the mapping files, some extension of the meta model for representing instance information, one or maybe more tools related documents, and then the quality model documents about links, about modeling information kept in the digital twin, and modeling non-IP device control. So that's my quick summary for a start. Any questions?
Thank you, Karsten. This was very good. We'll get back to the sort of how we map this to deliverables at the end here, but this was a good summary, I think. Michael?
I had nothing to add, just great.
Thank you.
Good. Then next up on the agenda would be for Bart or Elliot to present the NIPSI slides.
That's going to be Bart.
Okay, Bart, can I ask you to?
So if these are still in PowerPoint, you probably need to do screen sharing.
No, I did actually tear them out and convert it into PDF while you were talking, so it should work. Thanks. You learn on the way. So Bart, go ahead.
We can't hear you. That's
Hello?
better. Hello.
We sort of hear you now.
Yeah, that works.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. All right. So I took a stab at how NIPSI could fit into an SDF model. Obviously, this is all still preliminary, but just to get an idea of how this how NIPSI fits in. So basically, on this slide, this kind of shows kind of the difference between an SDF model and NIPSI, which defines operations that you can do against a non-IP thing, right? That thing has some connectivity attributes, right? Which could be, it has a device identity and then some connectivity attributes, which could be BLE, ZigBee, or some other non-IP technology. And we have two types of operations that we define on such a device object. The first type is device operations. So these are really very, very simple. So a device is either connectable or not, so you can connect to it. And then you can exchange attributes, so read and write attributes with it, consume, and those attributes could be normal attributes, so an attribute value that you read or write. There could be a subscription, so it's something you can consume from a device in a unicast from the device. And then they could be broadcasts as well, so those are packets that anybody that's on that specific network can receive. And then there's registrations. Now, those registrations are kind of really things that we use in the APIs to simplify the API transactions. For example, we assign a topic to a subscription, so we can refer to a subscription by name. We define an attribute name to an attribute, so we can define an attribute by name. And if we're transferring files to or large amounts of data to a device, we can give that a name as well. So as you can see, those registrations are things that map very well to properties in a model. So I want to look at these separately and see how they would map to a model, and then also look at, okay, what's the end result here? What are we achieving when we do this? So if we look at the device operations first, so obviously every operation will be a property of a device. So an SDF property can have a skim device object, and then the SDF data will define what's in that device object. For example, the device can have a MAC address, the device can have a manufacturer, a name. So these are typical attributes that that an SDF thing will typically already have. What would also be in that object definition would potentially be attributes of BLE attributes that device has. For example, what BLE security model, for example, it supports, or what ZigBee security model it supports, for example. Then another property is whether or not the device is connectable. So does it support NIPSI connections? And then also, obviously, any SDF property can be associated with a NIPSI attribute, being a regular attribute, a subscription, or a broadcast. For example, an SDF property of temperature could have a NIPSI attribute associated with it that you can read or write, or if we're dealing with like a wearable in healthcare, an SDF property of heart rate, for example, could have a subscription associated with it. And then an attribute of location could have a broadcast NIPSI attribute associated with it. All of those could be defined as SDF data, of course. Then we see basically two actions, reading and writing of that attribute. So a write of an attribute could not only be writing some data, but it could also result in an action. For example, a write of an attribute could result in a light turning on and off, or changing color or something. And then an activation of a subscription or a deactivation of a subscription could also be an SDF action. And then an SDF event, obviously maps to something that you would receive from a device. So it could be a broadcast or a subscription message. If we look at the registrations, well, registrations are kind of come natural with the SDF model. You don't really need any API calls anymore to do them, because ultimately the attribute name maps directly to the SDF property name. A topic is a property of an SDF event, or it could be even the name of the SDF event as well. And then a file could be an attribute of an SDF property. For example, an SDF property could be, this thing has firmware, and here's the file for the firmware in case you need to update it. So in the end, what's the end goal here is that we can provide an application with an SDF model or an SDF thing definition, and with that, that application would know how to interact with a NIPSI gateway that is sitting on a non-IP network to communicate with a thing. So it would be able to onboard the device on the gateway and perform the NIPSI operations that are defined in the SDF model as actions or events against the NIPSI gateway. So basically, the goal would be is that the application could completely understand how to interoperate with a device over a NIPSI gateway just by receiving the SDF definition for that device. So that's basically the goal of what we're trying to do with integrating NIPSI into SDF. Any questions or comments?
Thanks a thanks a lot. I think this was exactly what we were looking for. That you sort of, this seems to be the first step to take before we continue here, right? To flesh this out. But this was very good. Any questions from the rest of the group? I think we can have the. I'm looking for the kind of having a deeper technical, both on this and the location stuff, having the deeper technical discussions later. But quick questions and so on are welcome. Ari, please go ahead. Or do I need to?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, this looks very promising. This might be already on the deeper technical, but I was wondering, have you drafted any kind of SDF examples, how it could potentially look like in action?
Yeah, I haven't yet, but I'll that's what I was planning to do next. Once I got past this stage, I first wanted to see if there was no, fundamental objection to going this route, but it seems like there's more or less some consensus, so that's a good next step.
Okay, so I think, especially on the level, kind of on your last slide, like given SDF definition, and then you get the semantics of how does the data from the gateway look like. That's very good. I have some questions maybe on how you map, let's say, device operations to actions and events, but I think those will be much more clear once you do kind of first example, and then we can discuss based on those, but probably also those are very much doable.
Right, I'll work on that next. And I think there was also a question in the chat from Bechet, which I use BLE and ZigBee as an example because those are models that we use, or operations we use a lot from an enterprise perspective. But like Enocean and LoRa, and for example, should also be able to map to this.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's, I guess, when we get back to the kind of charter and milestones and sort of more planning session part at the end, let's get back to this then.
Were there any other questions for Bart about how the mapping works now? No. Okay.
So Michael, right now we don't have any mapping.
Yeah,
so,
I understand, but you have a conception of what it might be.
Yeah, I think this contributes actually a lot to NIPSI as well, because right now if an application wants to use NIPSI, they have to understand the operations, and the model, importing this through a model makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, of course, if we have time in the end, we could talk about technical details. I would have a lot of questions there, but probably we have to figure out the charter discussion first. But I think on this level, it makes a lot of sense.
Good. Then I wonder if, because I really would be good to have the kind of charter and milestones discussion. On the other hand, since we have Yun-Yong here, maybe Yun-Yong, can you perhaps give us like a 3 or 4 minute quick summary of the status of the location work, and then I will interrupt you and we'll go back to the kind of the charter discussion. Is that okay?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. I
Okay,
think your slides are. Can you find the slides?
Can you show my presentation material?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think she's asking for you to start the
Aha,
slide.
okay. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Then my mistake. I will, give me a second here. I will.
Okay, because I cannot know, I didn't know how to
No,
present.
it's no problem. Sorry, my mistake. Here you go.
Okay.
You
Okay,
see
thank
them?
you. Yes, I can see. This is the second presentation for the document. In this version, we showed the example location information for a boat and the heater in it. Next slide, please. First of all, I'd like to explain the slide to review the contents of the last meeting and the email discussion. We want to use ASDF to represent things and objects as data twins. And we have already discussed the need and examples of data twins by email. The reason why we propose to add location information to the ASDF is that the actions and the events of an object can change depending on its location. Therefore, I believe that location information is different from property information. Next slide, please. We have added an example of a boat. We assume that there is a heater in the boat, as shown in the figure 2 on the right. I took the boat as an example because at the last flag meeting, Karsten wondered how to express the boat's location. As in the figure, we propose to add SDF location to SDF model at the level of SDF object or SDF property, SDF event, and SDF action. Next slide, please. This is the example location description with geographical and relative information. The location of the boat can be expressed by geographical information as shown on the left figure, and the location of the heater can be expressed by the geographical information of the boat and the relative information on the right figure. And next slide, please. We propose to add SDF location to SDF model at the level of SDF object or SDF property, SDF event, and SDF action. I think the timestamp can be added to SDF location to indicate the duration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We might have time for one question here, if it's quick and not deeply technical. So, if there are no questions, thanks a lot. Thank you for the quick presentation and continuing to work on this. I think this is as exactly as for NIPSI. This is something that we will be working with, and maybe we have to tweak the technical solution additionally. But let's discuss the technical details at a later stage here. So, but thanks a lot for this and for the presentation and so on.
Thank you.
So basically, if we then move back to, I need to practice this sometime. Share slides. So we have, this is information that we had. Are you seeing a slide called Charter Evolution right now? Okay, good. This was a bit of a quick job, but as we mentioned, right, we have a charter proposal as of started from last year. We submitted it. It was brought to ISG for discussion. There has been a few folks have been okay with it, and a few not so okay. And if you want to summarize that discussion, and the last mail came on Thursday last week, and is that Roman, for instance, has a block, and basically trying to sort of digest that. Well, he actually had the block before, and we made an updated approval. Francesca made an updated proposal, and then we kind of, he's still blocking and still wants more information. So basically, where we are charter-wise is not so much the if I read things correctly. It's not so much the the intended direction that the work is taking us, but more that we need to be a bit more explicit in what we intend to do and when we intend to do it. So we need to bring some clarity on the deliverables and the milestones. And to help that, and now this is of course not editable, I just took a look at this is not the latest version of slides curse. This is not the latest version of the file, but here are the documents where the thing in green at the top is of course our RFC to be, and that's in good shape and moving forward and so on, as you just heard. Then the things below that are identified work and existing documents that would kind of, we would like to keep in scope of our charter and would be good examples to be in scope of our charter. Of course, we need to have the charter wide enough to also add related work that fits in the charter, but these are good examples, right? And before anybody knows, sort of obviously there is an error here, as I said, some PDF export issue on my side. The mapping files, there is a draft for mapping files. How to best drive this? I suppose that we are happy with the overall. Yes, I was going to paste that in, but I didn't have the. I don't know if we can put it in the notes, Michael, and then we can maybe show those notes.
Yeah.
So Francesca, from what I read of Roman's sort of the final comments were basically that he wanted to be, like here, right? Spell out. We want to do a draft on instances. We want to do a draft on location for digital twins, not just work on digital twins in the open. But maybe before we go to the notes, before we look into Roman's proposal and so on, are there anything here with, of course, the red things maybe fleshed out? Anything else here that we missed or should be potential deliverables? And when I say deliverables, it doesn't mean to be that it has to be exactly this number of documents. It's more than, it's probably, some of these can be merged together. So Elliot, go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, morning, good evening. I think we don't know. I think we could at least start with one draft for the non-IP gateway, and if we need another one, I think we should leave a little bit of wiggle room in the charter to say one or more drafts, but starting with this one. And if we need a second draft, we shouldn't be precluded from doing a second draft. I mean, if it requires a little bit of separation for some reason between, I don't even know why, but I think probably what Bart presented, I think does a pretty good job of knitting the two together. And if we just incorporate that, we should address that. And then from a milestone standpoint on the right, if I may, I would suggest that we discuss this in a future, we discuss the draft and future interim. That also leaves opportunity for others if they want to submit other proposals along the same lines to do so. And then we get into a call for adoption sort of in the July timeframe, if everybody's happy, right? All this, anytime you get into milestones, right, it's always, under the assumption that everything goes well, right? And so that gets you towards, working group approval about a year later, plus minus, right? And I don't know, Michael, Nicholas, does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I mean, my absolutely from a not I can't say so much about the milestones exactly, but obviously the intent, should this be 1 or 2 drafts, or should it be 1? I think the important part here is we need to do this kind of, the investigation that with the stuff Bart presented, looking a bit deeper, I think, into the SDF and NIPSI integration, and whether that needs to be a separate draft or it can be merged with other draft is sort of, I don't have a strong opinion on that. But it just, I mean, it's more like identified work to be done, and if that's documented, it's good, right? Francesca, I guess you.
I wanted to mention that milestones, they don't need to be precise. What is interesting to see is the order of things that the working group would like to work on. That can be definitely updated later, and it's a best effort, of course, but yeah, that's why milestones are important, just to give an idea of this is the first thing that the working group wants to work on, etc., etc. And yeah, deliverables are definitely what is more important to focus on.
And I guess the kind of the difficult answer there is that we want to work on all this in parallel, right? Basically.
That can also be written in the milestones if that's the case,
Because I think these things are, even if they're isolated activities, they are kind of, they're not automatically in some sequence, I would say. But I mean, good point. But that gives us some idea for the NIPSI kind of progress, and I kind of agree with the idea there. How about the kind of the SDF infrastructure stuff, the relations, links, instances, mapping files? Except for instances, there are drafts. And as I had a chat with both Arjen and Petri before on the relations draft, and it seems that will move. That will also, there will be energy on that go in the near future, right? So we can move forward with that to adopt it and so on. Karsten, on your links and mapping files, or what used to be called mapping files documents, how many timing ideas there, or?
Well, anything that wants to make use of this infrastructure may need the infrastructure. So we have to work on those mapping mechanisms early. That doesn't mean we have to complete the document, but we need to have a common understanding how we are attaching ecosystem-specific information to our models.
Yeah. So that's maybe a priority then for those documents.
I think so.
Yeah. So
together with the instance information document, I think this is really important infrastructure.
Yep. And I think it's also exactly the instances work is crucial since we don't have real support for that already, right? So, yeah. I saw Michael Koster, or no?
Oh yeah, well, I was just testing the the new UI. But on the subject of digital twins, I don't really have a draft that I'm thinking of working on, but I have been working on SDF for digital twins, and there are a couple of things that I just wanted to make sure the charter didn't exclude, which is one is using SDF, ways of using SDF to model things that don't have digital interfaces. So a digital twin involves modeling the rooms and pumps and things like that don't necessarily have digital. And the other one is to be able to use SDF in the way we use RDF in constructing first a meta model. RDF has shapes, language, and other stuff like that, but be able to make a graph out of SDF basically. And I'm not sure the current relation plus link paradigm supports really making a graph out of SDF of instances. So that's probably part of the instance, but it's also a digital twin topic. I just wanted to make sure that charter didn't exclude those things, but I don't really have anything, in terms of a draft. But the timetable would be, similar for the charter, and I think there's other. So, the digital twin. To say digital twin is all about location, I think we've already sort of decided that digital twin is a whole topic. So it seems like since it's a category, we could just make sure the language allows more than one draft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, and it's obviously, I think one of the things we should do is actually change the name of the digital twin draft to something around location, because I think there will be other digital twin drafts, so to speak, or we just put them under and make them general. I suppose a location quality could be used in all kinds of situations, not just digital twins, right? So it's maybe to make it more general. But good. So I took note of those things you mentioned. Let's see if they are too specialized or so, but they're good stuff. Yeah, thanks. We now have 4 more minutes. So maybe what we should do.
Actually, we have 19 minutes.
Yeah, well, sorry. Yes, we have 19 minutes. The thing is that we took an extra 15 minutes because we were expecting troubles at the start. But I'm also sort of, if people want to leave at the top of the hour, we can't, stop you. Right. So Michael Richardson, should we try to make a rough, what should I say, plan and document that in the charter with some kind of milestones or order of things or something like that, and document that? Do we have enough for that now?
I think that looking at the notes, we have enough deliverables that we could put them in some sensible order, and for that, I have been ill for 4 or 5 days. So I'm not really sure what Roman's second round of complaints are, or whether there's a clear answer at this point. But
sorry.
So how I understood Roman's points were they were proposed milestones.
Yeah, and a bit more explicit examples of what our deliverables would be. But I think so what we have with this is probably that Outlook search is really crappy. Sorry about this. There you go. No, you don't.
So one option to progress here would be taking a look at those proposals and see if we want to tweak them in one direction or the other.
So, yeah, but the thing is that now we have so many text elements here. I think it's a bit difficult to edit them online. So one, looking at sort of his latest mail, one of the blocks here is on don't understand the scope sufficiently to answer when is the work done. And that is not something we have addressed here. We have said that if we are doing this, we are happy. But do we want to add more? That's one part. And the other thing is, of course, that whether the digital twin things is a bigger part than what we have. Yeah, Carsten, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the digital twin situation is an example for information that we want to attach to an instance that is not directly an affordance of that instance. So the temperature sensor in a hotel, you cannot ask the temperature sensor what room it is in. But somebody have to record this information, or it's not a very useful temperature sensor. And you might call this a digital twin, you might call this an asset database or whatever, but there is information that you want to know about the physical side of things that is not an SDF property in its current sense.
Mm. Yeah.
So just in case people are wondering, I copied the relevant part, or what I think the relevant part of Roman's message is that Francesca just referenced on the chat into the notes. So we may want to look at those. Maybe you can even do a screen share from the notes.
If I stop sharing here. Can you share the notes from share screen? Share. Give me a second here.
You want the
I can try to do it. I guess there's too many windows here. So. Well, maybe
Might be you have a fan problem.
Yeah. Do you want me to share the
Yes, share the notes. The notes from this meeting. If Carson pasted things there.
that's what you'd like?
Well,
No.
below that, where it says the Roman's input.
No, it's above.
Oh, it's above. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But before we take this, just to take the first of Roman's points, he's asking if we want the working group to be a maintenance style long-term working group, or working group that will close once the deliverables are done. My understanding is that it is supposed to be the second. Is that correct?
Well, right now
Well,
we
I-
don't have a lot of maintenance to do, but I could imagine that this will get important maybe in the next rechartering.
I think that the question for the current charter is, no, this is not a maintenance group. Could be in the future, but no, we have specific deliverables there.
Okay, that's my understanding as well. So that's what Roman didn't get, and that was his first question.
If I may, I think for each of the rough proposals, Francesca, you actually sort of nailed it earlier, right? Which is, for each of the rough proposals, we say, here's the starting point for the work, and here's a rough here, and then have some, and have some milestones below for that, for each of those pieces of work. Now, the one issue that I don't think that quite covers is Roman's concern about how big the digital twin work, if that's really an enormous piece of work or not, and we have to answer that, I think, more directly outside of the charter, an email back to him as to how we view that, or otherwise we have to scope it to say, here's the draft Lee ASDF digital twin, for instance, and that is the scope of the work. Right, and then for like NIPSI, I think again, he's basically being verbose and saying, "Is this what you mean?" And we could say, "Yes, this is the starting point for the work." Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
Look, I just restated Francesca's point rather verbosely myself.
So Karsten, you're in the queue. Ari, you're in the queue.
Okay, so maybe one way to address the digital twin issue is to flip it around a bit. Basically saying like, we look for a mechanism to express this kind of information, for example, location, that is not natural on the digital affordances, for example, to support modeling digital twins. So it's not like doing digital twins per se, but we're looking at mechanisms that enable the use for digital twins. Would that potentially help to scope it?
Yeah, I'm not a specialist on IETF working group scope, so I can't really tell.
So I think that the point is that we are not working on digital twins. We are working on SDF features that help us work with non-affordance information about instances. And we may want to define those location qualities at some point. But we are not opening up the general issue of digital twins and synchronization protocols and so on and so on.
No, I mean, we are taking on components that are useful when designing or sort of when working with digital twins, absolutely. But exactly, it's not a digital twin solution as such.
Yeah, and it's a rather narrow part of it. Like Roman points out, digital twins is a huge topic, and especially today, a lot of stuff is put under it. But we're getting quite specific part to it. So like, and like, of course, the SDF part, but then like even SDF, it's about this, non-affordance information. I don't know. We have to work on the language to make it understandable for non-SDF people. But I guess you all know what I mean. Not actions, events, and properties, but something that is not part of those classic affordances, but is used, for example, with digital twins as a very important piece of information.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're actually working on kind of modeling concepts or kind of facilities for being able to complicated text.
Yeah, I just changed the text a little bit, so it's no longer Roman's text.
Karsten, can you highlight where you changed?
Proposed standard document extending SDF there, yeah. For instance, this is about digital twin models for physical objects. I mean, I think that's maybe a better way to say it, right? That's an application then. It's not a yeah.
Yeah, works for me.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe we need a few words to somewhere what we mean by non-affordance information, because yeah, that's kind of in SDF context, you kind of get it, but
yeah, that's maybe something to think a little about. Exactly, it's a bit of a.
Yeah, but I think like the idea behind that sentence, at least to me, makes sense.
Yeah. For information.
What about everyone working on the digital twin topics? Does that also make sense for you? Basically flipping it around, not saying we model digital twins, but we provide capabilities that can be used for digital twins.
Okay.
Yep. Sounds like we'll follow up on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other part that says rough proposal, the word mapping. We already allow the translation between formats of different IoT STO objects. So that's not what the mapping document is about. So this needs some wordsmithing.
Yeah, so let's elaborate on this, right? But didn't we have that in the other proposal we sent? I think we had that for the last one DM.
Michael, can you scroll down to line 59, I think? Thanks.
In our
So
proposal,
that's about inserting the numbers so that you don't into the models. The SDO specific numbers, or I said numbers, but it might not be numbers. Encodings.
We talked about additional SDF modeling mechanisms to enable property mapping between additional IoT SDO's objects. I don't know if that makes things clearer, but we talked about modeling mechanisms.
So, Karsten, what was your concern with, I guess, with line 59?
Well, we already provide ways to support translation.
True.
So this is not about supporting translation. This is about modeling information that goes beyond a common base model and then aids in translation.
Yes, so it's not between different IoT SDOs, but actually mapping to the communication specifics.
Yes, mapping to the specifics of IoT SDO object.
Yeah. And it's actually additional mechanisms, right? So it's more mechanisms to help modeling.
Yeah.
But we have 3 more minutes, and I wonder if we should, based on the discussion here today and the stuff here, we should try to put together a document with our current understanding, and of course discuss it with you, Francesca, to make sure that you're happy and if you want to bring it forward.
I mean, I'll be monitoring the conversation with Roman. So as soon as the working group is happy with some formulation, you can, continue that discussion with Roman and
Okay. So I guess we do a few PRs along the lines we discussed today and discuss on those the detailed formulations.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make it clear that this is the first ISG review before the charter goes to external evaluation, which means the rest of everybody will get the chance to comment on the charter, and that's usually 2 weeks. And then after that, there is a second ISG review to evaluate the comments received from everybody. So this is not the last. This charter will be, there will be comments.
Thanks.
Okay, the one thing I would suggest is that we be careful about playing ping pong with Roman. So may I make a suggestion that the chairs maybe have a private conversation with Roman to make sure that his comments are actually, that they understand his comments and that the resolution that's being proposed in general terms will meet them?
Yeah,
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. And I think we need to convert the various proposals into one proposal. So yes. Yeah. Let's do so. We had one more topic. We're really out of time. Should we try to have one more Do we need a general purpose interim in the near future, or are people reasonably happy with kind of the general work? And if not, are there? It would maybe be good to have because there are more technical questions on the NIPSI work. Should we have a NIPSI SDF discussion in the not too far future? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any sort of rough, in a mid-May or something like that? Would that be okay? Or 2 weeks from now, early May? Assume we do a rally or a doodle or whatever.
I think it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks because you need a 1 week for the rally and 2 weeks heads up. So
yeah,
but yeah,
it would
before
be the
vacation
design
period.
team meeting, so it's not an interim.
Then okay, then you can do faster.
Because it would be good to get it going on that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Design team sounds good.
Yep. Okay. With that, we are out of time. Thanks a lot, everybody. Sorry for the technical mishaps and confusion and mess. We're learning the hard way here. And let's talk to you again and be in contact over the mailing list and so on in the very near future. Okay, great. Any other final comments, questions?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you. Good progress.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.